I know you might find this difficult to believe that somebody could make Trump, the orange ape, look even worse than he has made himself look throughout most of his life, but especially as far as it concerns us Americans, since this filthy pig was put into the presidency by his Russian handlers. But guess what? His niece, Dr. Mary Trump, the daughter of the ape's older brother, Fred Jr., who died in 1981 of alcohol-related heart attack, I guess. Anyway, Mary Trump has written a book about her uncle entitled Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. Whoa! You gotta like that title, right? How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. The ape's family, of course, is sued to try to stop this book's publication, citing the fact that at the end of a family dispute about Fred Sr.'s fortune, that would be Fred Jr. and the ape's father, Mary had signed a non-disclosure agreement, in part about the filthy, rotten, disgusting family secrets. Have you noticed something, Truth Seeker? That almost every book, if not every book, except the ones written by the pigs over at the Fox Sewer, every book written about Trump has been worse than the one before. And in so many instances, the ape or the ape's family has tried to stop publication of the book. Isn't that, I mean, doesn't that present itself as some kind of a chord, a sound, a musical tone that is the same in every single instance, and it's a chord from discordant music? Maybe something like that. And how many people associated with Trump have been forced, including Melania Knauss, his so-called wife, they've all had to sign non-disclosure agreements. I bet Jeffrey Epstein had to sign one too. Maybe the arrest of Ghislaine will reveal just exactly what Jeffrey had to sign in order to pal around with and provide 14-year-old girls for Donald Trump. I guess we'll find out eventually, huh? But that lawsuit to stop the book's publication was an absolute joke, like most of them are. I mean, how many times did the ape have to try to stop somebody from publishing the truth about him? A court in New York decided that Mary Trump's publisher is not a party to whatever contract she had with her family, and therefore it is free to publish the book. Mary Trump isn't publishing it, for Christ's sake. The publishing house is. And according to the Washington Post, presumably there's a remedy in that non-disclosure agreement in the form of Mary Trump paying a penalty if she violates it. Just like anyone who signs an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, she can choose to violate it and then pay. That doesn't mean the family can get the courts to shut her up. Not going to happen, ape. But all of that, all the little melodrama around the pre-publishing anticipatory bullshit that happens right before the publishing of any book about the ape, aside from all that, it is much less concern to the rest of us than what Mary Trump has to say in her book. And she's a clinical psychologist, right? PhD. And now we know part of what she has to say because in advance of the publication date, which has been moved up to July 14th, copies have been given to reporters and multiple news outlets, including the Washington Post. And while, as the Post reports, some of these so-called tell-all books don't deliver much that's surprising, although I think John Bolton's book did, Mary Trump has some very interesting information to share with the unwashed masses here. And it's boosted by the fact that as a clinical psychologist, she can offer insights into how the ape got to be the person he is. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, fun. Now, thanks to the Washington Post, I have in front of me some of the highlights from the book. Now, I'm going to share them with you because I will make the assumption, I'm not casting aspersions here, but I doubt seriously if you're going to read the book. I know I won't. I'll read excerpts. I'll let the opinion people at CNN or MSNBC read it and fill me in on the details, right? I'll watch The 11th Hour with Brian Williams or watch All In or some other program on MSNBC where they put up quotes directly from the book, right? So based on the fact that neither you nor I are going to read this book, let me share with you some of the highlights. Mary Trump claims Trump hired a boy a lot smarter than he was to take the SAT for him. Of course, and the high score that the other kid got helped get the ape into college. You know how he's always bragging, right, about how he went to Wharton. Oh, and that's one of the top business schools. You rancid piece of human waste. You had no business going there. You should have stayed in kindergarten, you thug. Anyway, Mary describes Trump's father, Fred, as not just domineering, but Fred Sr., the old man, was, according to her, a sociopath. He was verbally abusive to his children, especially Fred Jr., who drank himself to death, insisting that they become killers. That's the word he used, unhindered by any kind of emotion that might restrain whatever activity they were going to get involved in, where they would become merciless bastards. Mary Trump writes, quote, Fred, the father, perverted his son's perception of the world and damaged his ability to live in it. End quote. She's talking about Trump there, about the orange ape. Now, her father, Fred Jr., came in for particular contempt from Fred Sr. because Fred Jr. was, in Fred Sr.'s opinion, soft. Oh, that's something you don't want to be, right? Mary Trump writes, quote, the lesson President Trump learned at its simplest was that it was wrong to be like Freddie, her dad. Fred didn't respect his oldest son, so neither would Donald. Fred Sr. had nothing but contempt for his oldest son, so little Donnie, little shit that he was, he just absorbed all that and conducted himself the same way. Another item from Mary Trump's book, when Fred Sr. died, Mary was told his estate was worth only about $30 million. The portion of that figure that became her inheritance was the subject of the dispute that led to a financial settlement and her non-disclosure agreement. And she later gave Fred Sr.'s business records to the New York Times, which published a blockbuster story showing that the patriarch had transferred about $1 billion to his children, which was a scheme mostly carried out after Fred Jr.'s death. And the result of that was potentially defrauding the U.S. government of $500 million in tax revenue. Oh, the rotten fruit doesn't fall very far from the tree, does it? No, of course not. Another item. On her trip to Mar-a-Lago when she was 29, Mary came out to the pool in a bathing suit and shorts. The orange ape said, with all the grace and sensitivity we've come to expect from him, quote, "Holy shit, Mary, you're stacked!" End quote. Now, you've seen the photos of Trump groping and putting his hands on Ivanka in places where he probably really shouldn't. But that ties back into Trump's predilection, apparently, along with Jeffrey Epstein, of 14, 15-year-old girls. Oh, I realize Mary Trump was 29 here, she says. But the language the orange ape uses is that of a repressed teenager. Gee, Mary, you're really stacked. You got great boobs. Jesus. Another item. For a time, the ape hired Mary to ghostwrite his book, The Art of the Comeback. At one point, a Trump employee sent her some pages of material Trump wanted to include in the book. Mary wrote, quote, "It was an aggrieved compendium of women he had expected to date, but who, having refused him, were suddenly the worst, ugliest, and fattest slobs he'd ever met, including Madonna and the Olympic figure skater Katarina Witt. Ugliest, worst, fattest slobs he'd ever met." Yeah. Another item. At a White House dinner in 2017, the president gestured toward his son's wife, Eric. The two at that point had been together for 8 years. Trump said, quote, "I barely even know who the fuck she was, honestly, but then she gave a great speech during the campaign in Georgia supporting me." End quote. The young woman, Eric's wife, and Eric had been together for 8 years. And the ape said, I'm quoting, "I barely even knew who the fuck she was." Right. Here's another item. Mary writes this. Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Mitch McConnell, all of whom bear more than a passing psychological resemblance to Fred, they all, Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Mitch McConnell, recognized that Donald's checkered personal history and his unique personality flaws make him extremely vulnerable to manipulation by smarter, more powerful men. End quote. And we see that every day, don't we, truth seekers? We've seen it every day the ape has been in the presidency. Now, the Post reports that even though Mary Trump's book won't be out for another, a week, it's already reached number 4 on Amazon, behind John Bolton's book and 2 books about racism. Now, as the Post points out, while we can't rerun the history, there's a strong chance that the Trump family's attempt to suppress Mary Trump's book only brought it more attention. Because, there's nothing more intriguing than something someone doesn't want you to see, right? Oh, we're such bad boys and girls, aren't we? And while these details of the orange ape's life may not change anyone's mind about whether or not they want to vote for him, his supporters would vote for him if he had anal sex with Jesus. They would still vote for him. But what she has written will be of significant historical interest. As the Post puts it, in the future, we're going to ask not just how Trump got to be president, but what could have produced such a man in the first place. Yeah.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.